25 दिसंबर और 31 दिसंबर को आप जीत सकते हैं स्मार्ट टीवी और स्कूटी। बायजूस एग्जाम प्रेप लाया है आपके लिए दी अल्टीमेट विंटर कार्निवल, जहां 21 से 31 दिसंबर तक आप जीत सकते हैं एक्साइटिंग प्राइजेस पाने का मौका ऑन द परचेज ऑफ आवर ऑनलाइन क्लासरूम प्रोग्राम, जैसे कि स्मार्टफोन और स्मार्ट वॉच। ये ही नहीं, 25 दिसंबर और 31 दिसंबर को आप जीत सकते हैं स्मार्ट टीवी और स्कूटी जैसे बम्पर प्राइजेस। तो देर किस बात की, आज ही ऑनलाइन क्लासरूम प्रोग्राम के साथ अपने अपकमिंग एग्जाम की प्रिपरेशन स्टार्ट करें। With live interactive classes and mock tests designed by our expert faculty, get best study material along with instant doubt resolution, और साथ ही पाएं बेहतरीन गिफ्ट्स पाने का मौका। Terms and conditions apply.
Hi guys, welcome once again to an evening with Srinivas. That's me, or Sino as my colleagues and friends call me. So guys, in today's session of about 35-40 minutes, we are going to discuss about a particular session called decision making in XAT. Alright, so what we're going to look at in today's session is I'm going to introduce this idea of decision making, what exactly happens in this section, what is tested, what type of questions come across, how has this section morphed over the last 5-10 years. In the current present avatar, how is it that XAT is testing the decision making abilities of students? So you're going to get an entire idea about this full section. Also, I'm going to give you about 5 or 6 problems so that you understand the nature of the section. At the end of the session, we're going to talk about 5-6 problems, the solutions, what is the right way of approach, what is the right answer. We're going to talk about all of that. So let's start off by understanding the section. Before that, guys, if you are liking these sessions, I keep taking these sessions at 9 o'clock quite a bit. I love taking these sessions. So if you also want to be a part of this going forward, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell icon so that you get the notification. I already have a couple of comments coming my way. Let me first answer them and then move forward. Okay, Vasudev Mishra is saying, is it true that we have to qualify GK to get XLRI? If true, please tell minimum marks. Vasudev, I think I've already covered this in one of the other sessions in the evening, but once again I'm repeating, GK does not have a minimum qualifying mark. So don't worry about GK, give it your best shot. Do not worry about cutoff for GK, it does not apply. Okay? Right, so guys, with that question out of the way, there are no further questions pending. So let's start off with this decision making. So first, a quick refresher of the sections. What are the type of sections? There are 3 sections which are actually mattering to you and 1 section which is GK. Okay, so let's take a look at what are these sections. Verbal ability is combined with logical reasoning. Then you have quant combined with DI. And the third section is the decision making and analytical reasoning together. So this is the third section that we are going to talk about, and of course the fourth section, which is not a part of your 3-section paper, is your GK. All right. So let's only focus on the decision making part, because I'm sure you had your fill of knowledge on the others by now. Right. So only the DM is the new area as far as your competitive exams are concerned. Most of you would have prepared for CAT, you would have already written IIFT, SNAP. These exams are already over. So let's not worry about the sections that you already know about. So what is this decision making? So the decision making section, first of all, it is an entire section in itself which is not there in any other entrance exam except XAT. So it's slightly different compared to the other sections you typically come across. Totally there are 21 questions. Again, it keeps varying from year to year, but last year there were 21 questions, and they simply gave 7 sets of 3 questions each. So 7 3s are 21. That's how the section was. Very straightforward. And there is, so this section has a cutoff, so you can't take it very lightly, and you require a minimum cutoff score. In fact, I would have discussed this in one of the other sessions that I took few days back about various entrance exams that are there after IIFT. So in that I discussed about the cutoffs. Usually the cutoff for this particular section will be around 8 to 9 marks. So I'm just going to write it over here. It's going to be around 8 to 9 marks, 8.5 to 9, sometimes 9.5 also. For the business management and human resources, both the courses of XLRI, the top-notch courses, have a cutoff requirement here. Okay, so your target here should be at least 9 plus. So I would say round figure 10. So 10 is your target in this particular section, and it is easy, guys. So that's why we're going to spend a Tuesday evening for 1 hour, not 1 hour, probably 40 minutes trying to understand this section. It is not difficult. That's the beauty of this section. And the second point, in fact, I'm going to get into the next slide and talk about it, that there are two big advantages of this particular section. Okay, and of course there is no sectional time limit, so you have a total of 165 minutes. Obviously you don't spend all the time here, but the advantage, as I mentioned, is because there is no sectional time limit, this is one section which is scoring in less amount of time. Okay, you can easily answer 12 to 14 questions in less than 25 minutes. 12 to 14 questions in less than 25 minutes, and if you have practiced this well, you can get 10 plus. Your mistakes will be less in this if you have practiced this section well. And for those of you who are worried about quant, who are worried about calculations, guys, this is one section which is scoring for you. Okay, it can simply boost up your score like anything. And the beauty, as I said, is it takes very little time to get through this section. Okay, it does not involve too much of calculation, please note. And you don't have to prepare too much. I mean, compared to what you have prepared for other sections, if you can dedicate 10 days to 15 days to this section, it's more than enough. 10 to 15. So today is what? 22nd, 21st. So the exam is on 2nd of January. You spend the next 10 days, every day an hour and a half on decision making, you will ace it. That's nothing compared to the amount of work you put across for all the other sections put together, right? Well, so that's it. So let's understand, why is it like this? What is this DM all about? Okay, why is it so scoring? Why is it taking less amount of time? But before we get into that, let us see the reason of its existence. Okay, so it's called raison d'etre in French. I can't pronounce it perfectly, but yeah. So the idea is, if you understand why does this exist, this section exists, which nobody else asks, but only the XAT paper asks you. So you will understand what kind of questions are being asked and why those kind of questions are coming to you. So the reason is, see, quant tests your calculation skill, your mental aptitude in terms of numbers and dealing with it. English talks about how fluent are you, how good are you, logically thinking, all of that is fine. But none of these papers that are there, either CAT or IFT or any of these other exams, they do not test your judgment skills. Right? The only judgment they check is, okay, difficult question, leave it, easy question, do it. That's the only judgment that you make. But judgment with respect to scenarios, judgment with respect to your real life scenarios, how do you react, what kind of approach you take, I mean, nobody tests that. And people realize, or people used to think it is difficult to test that in an exam also. However, XAT has cracked the code of testing even those kind of things, which is where your decision making section comes in. So the idea here is it's more about subjective than objective, which means I'm not going to look at calculation only. I'm going to look at, when I'm giving you a scenario, a hypothetical scenario, I want to see how your way of thinking is given this particular scenario. Okay, so they want to see how you think when a particular hurdle is put in front of you, and hurdle is not in terms of English or maths. This is actually a hurdle which happens in real life businesses or real life, your day-to-day life also. So you will actually get cases, you will actually get scenarios which you would have come across also in your daily life, or you would have read about these things in papers also. So such scenarios will be presented in front of you in a very concise manner, and you will be asked to respond based on the options. Okay, I'm getting a few questions. Right, so I'm getting around 8 to 10 marks in mocks. How may I get it to 14-15 marks in DM? Well, Mr. Backpack, me and my backpack. Well, 8 to 10 is a decent score, to be very honest. You just need 1 or 2 marks more in your decision making. So in fact, I have that. What do you do? How do you prepare for the next 10 days? I have it in the next slide. So I will not take that question of yours right now. It's going to come in the next 1 or 2 slides. So just hang on. Okay. The other thing they'll also test upon is they will give you a scenario which looks very easy for you to break the ethics, and they will give you an ethical conundrum, which means they'll put you in a very tough spot, right? And they'll ask you, how will you proceed? So such kind of questions. Or of course you will have your business decisions, day-to-day business decisions, which are based on your market data or probably sales figures, or they'll give you a scenario about your company is doing this kind of sales, this product is selling at this, is going to give you this much amount of profit, another product is running at this much amount of profit, and then probably they'll give you a question which will ask you to choose between the two products, something like that. So such questions are more calculation based, they also exist, but the subjective part of the questions are actually more in number. Okay, and of course some database, that's what I said, data will also be there, database questions will also be there, there's no doubt about it. Now the whole idea for all of this put together is they want to see your matured level of thinking. Guys, anybody can crack. When I say anybody, even somebody who is not mentally matured but good in maths can crack your quant section. It does not mean that the person can become a good manager. To be a good manager, you not only need, so remember there is something called as an IQ and there is something called as an EQ. The emotional quotient is something that has been measured in this particular section. How well, how matured are you as an individual? Can you think the larger picture, or do you answer your, or do you come across, or do you make your answers based on at the spur of the moment without thinking? Because the options you will see in the questions that I have lined up, there are some of the options you will actually get confused. You will see, this is what I do in my real life, but actually that will be the wrong way of approach. So you will see all of that going forward. But this is what they test. They test your emotional quotient. How matured are you in your thinking process, which has got nothing to do with calculations, which has got nothing to do with your English. It's your decision making of a scenario, given a scenario. Okay, so that's what is being tested in this particular section. So what happens, what are the type of questions? So DM questions can typically be classified into three categories. One is non-calculation based questions, where purely you have a scenario where there are absolutely no numbers. It's a social issue which has been presented to you. For example, in fact, I remember a question, very, very interesting question. It happened in my real life actually. So there's a question where, this is actually typically happens in a apartment society. So the question says, a maid has been referred by your friend to your house. And this maid has been working for the last 4 years in their house. There's been no problem, and she has been referred to you. You have hired the maid to do the work. 2 months later, you start noticing that there is money missing from your purse. Not once, but 3 instances the money has been missing. This has happened only in the last 2 months, ever since the maid has joined. Now, there are 5 options given. How will you proceed? What is your way forward? One option said, okay, you will straight away talk to the maid and said, you blame the maid saying that ever since you came this is happening, so this is your fault. Then there's a second approach, there's a third approach, so 4 and 5. So there are totally 5 approaches given. You are supposed to select the best approach that you have to take. So this is a real life scenario. There's nothing there to calculate, there's nothing there to, there's no numbers involved. It's pure decision. Right? It's basic English for you to read and decide. And this is the reason why this section gives you higher amount of score in lower number of minutes. You will take less amount of time and end up getting probably 12 or 11 or 12 or even 14. Some of you might get 14 or 15 marks also, depending upon how well you have prepared for this section. Okay, so these are called as non-calculation based, the example that I gave. There is absolutely no calculation. It could be an ethical question, it could be social and professional scenarios, or it could be a business scenario where again no numbers are involved. Okay, then the second type of questions are calculation based questions. Clearly this involves calculation. In fact, there is another session of decision making on 23rd. On 23rd, I'm going to specifically take up these calculation based questions. But anyway, for you to understand, calculation based questions would be probably looking at, okay, so I have a factory. I have 2 types of products that I can make. Product A requires so much of raw material, it takes 5 hours to make each product. Product B takes only 4 hours, but the profit is slightly lesser. Now I have to maximize my profit. Should I use product A or product B? Now you can't only go by profit per product because you are spending more time in A whereas less time in B. So all this should be taken into consideration and you have to come up with a final answer based on calculation. So it's an optimization kind of a problem. Just an example. Right? So those kind of questions are calculation based. You have to use your pen and paper, a little bit of calculation need to be done. And a third category is actually camouflage. So they will give you a lot of data. It appears, to those of you who don't like calculation, it appears as if it is asking you to calculate, but that's just a camouflage. It basically gives you a lot of information, a lot of numbers, and then end up asking a question which does not require any of that. So many of you will think it's okay, I don't like calculation, so let me leave it out. But again, you will be leaving out an easy question. So read not just the passage, read also the question for you to understand, should I do the calculation or not. Ideally this comes under this, but I put it separately simply because it's there to scare some of you, right? Once again, coming across few questions. So does XAT ask quant based decision making? Soumya, not technically quant, but yes, little bit of calculation, that's what I'm talking about. Calculation based is where the calculations are required, but not the kind of calculations that you're used to in your quant. At least some basic percentages you have to calculate. Okay, what would be the target score section wise? Tanya, I have already discussed that in one of my previous videos. Please check that out. I have given section wise, but this section I would say probably around 8 plus, ideally to be on the safe side, 9 plus. 8 is actually on the low side, so I would probably say 9 plus, 9.5 is a decent score. Again, it depends on the difficulty level of the section. So last year I think the cutoff was about 8.5 or 9.5, I don't remember exactly, somewhere in that range. So 9 plus would be a decent score. Okay, so guys, this is the way in which the decision making questions are classified. These are the 3 types of questions that come across. Now how do we attack this kind of problems? Or is there an approach for us? So let's take a look at the type of questions. Now, just a moment, I think you guys are not able to see the last part. Can the tech team please make sure that the last part is visible? Yeah, yes. So, right, so there are 2, now I already talked about what are the type of questions. Now here, it's not exactly the type, but the format, let's call the format of the questions. There are 2 types or 2 formats in which the questions appear. The first is a 5 option MCQ, which is traditional. You have a question, you have 5 options, you have to decide which is the best option, which all of you know. CAT also asks that, but only 4 options. XAT anyway, as you all know, it's 5 options question. The second is the new one. Here, in the second format, same, you'll have a story, and there will be 5 statements given to you. These are options, there are 5 statements. Statement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the question says, in fact the question says, arrange these 5 in the least to most appropriate order of approach. So for example, if I say that maid wala scenario, the scenario where I'm talking about the maid, there are 5 approaches that you can go forward from in that story. So the question says, arrange them from the least objectionable to the most objectionable, which means most appropriate should be the first, and the worst appropriate or the worst scenario, the worst way in which you can handle should be the last. In that order you should arrange. So it's not picking one, you'll also have to decide between the 2 options which is a better approach relatively. And then like your parajumbles, you pick the option, the options will be like 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. Then there'll be another option 2, 4, 1, 3, 5, and so on and so forth. So you'll have to choose the right option which has the correct order from least objectionable to most objectionable. That's one of the examples, that is one of the formats. Similarly, I can have a scenario where I'll say this is a problem that you have, right? And I'll give you 5 statements. And the question says, okay, which a combination of these above 3 is the best solution possible? Not just one, a combination of 3 things is the best possible solution for the question given. Which of these 3 is the best possible combination? And I'll have answer options as 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5, 1, 3, 2, and so on and so forth. So you'll have to choose which 3 will give you the best possible combination to solve the problem given. So this is the second nature or second format of the question. Okay, so these are the 2 formats that, the first one you already know. The second one is slightly different, you wouldn't have come across till now. Here you have to make use of all the statements and pick 3, sometimes 4 or all 5 statements also and arrange them. Right? So these are the 2 formats. Now, knowing these formats, how do I go about solving these? Are there any thumb rules that I have to take care of? Are there some basic formulae per se, not maths formulae, but thumb rules or things that I have to keep in mind which will help me in my DM? Yes, they are. First thumb rule is very straightforward, and this is something for your interviews also, guys. Keep in mind. This is something for your interviews also, as well as in decision making. If there is a question, I repeat, if there is a question based on ethics, irrespective of what the output is, never deviate from the ethical way of going. Never ever deviate from the ethical means. Okay, they can give you a scenario which will say, okay, if you're not doing this, you will lose everything in your life. Doesn't matter. You will stick to the ethical way. That's the first thumb rule. Whether it's a decision making or whether it's in an interview. In fact, in an interview, trust me, there will be worse scenarios that will be put in front of you, pushing you to take the non-ethical route without even realizing that it's okay. And they will tell you in such a way that, okay, yaar, you can do it, it's okay. But then you are not supposed to do that, especially in the interviews. So this is the first thumb rule. Never deviate from the right way, the ethical way, the moral way. Okay. Second, like in RC, usually in RCs we leave out the options which are extreme, like the author always agrees, the author never agrees. So usually these words are dangerous, right? Those of you who would have learned RCs would have realized by now. Extreme cases usually are avoided. The same thing happens in decision making also. When you're dealing with decision making options, don't choose options or reject options which are extreme in scenarios, right? Extreme in scenarios. So that's the second basic thumb rule that you can keep in mind. Soumya Jain is asking, does XAT ask theta questions? Yes, Soumya, they have introduced theta questions. In fact, I discussed this in the previous video of mine. Okay, please take a look at it. I have discussed where these questions have been asked. By the way, guys, once again a reminder, if you like what I'm discussing and if you want to be a part of more such sessions, more such evenings with Srinu or Srinivas, that's my name. You can you can subscribe to the channel, click on the like button or the bell notification button so that you are notified about these sessions. Okay, we have a lot of them planned going forward. Anyway, so the next thumb rule is about the legal part. Do not go for the ideas which you know are not legally valid. For example, in fact, I have one very nice question. I don't want to reveal it beforehand, but there are certain options which you see people doing in the real life, but are not legally correct. Now, it might not even dawn on you that, okay, he's doing it wrong. He's not supposed to do it because you've seen it happening everywhere. You've seen it happening everywhere. But then, when it comes to answering these questions, make sure that you are not caught legally, right? So your answer should be legally correct. Few thumb rules, at least you can eliminate few options. And eliminate options that do not directly affect the root cause of the problem. So, which means you need to know what is the exact reason why a problem is occurring to you. For example, I mean, in a very frivolous manner, if you want to explain that, if I have a 7-year-old son, he comes and says, Papa, my stomach is paining. Now, my root cause is not the stomach is paining. I need to understand what happened for which his stomach is paining. Without which, if any remedy that I give might not be perfect for him. It could be that he's played a lot and drank water immediately, so his stomach is paining. So I don't have to do anything about it. If you just sit for 5-10 minutes, you'll become normal. It could be that he overate and hence stomach is paining, in which case I have to give something which will help him in digestion or something like that, some Hajmola kind of a thing. It could be that there is really some problem in his stomach, and which means I might have to take him to the doctor. So identifying the root cause of the problem is not, it's not the superficial stomachache in the analogy. It is the reason why this thing is happening. That is called as a root cause. Once you identify that in the problem, any option which does not affect the root cause will basically be eliminated. Obviously, right? Why are you bothered about things which are not affecting your main idea of the main reason why the problem exists? Right? So that's the next. And this last part is something which I want you to take very seriously. typically leave the questions that ask you to arrange in ascending order, descending order, pick 3 or 4 options, all such questions. You know, there are 2 formats of questions that I spoke about. The second format of the questions, where it's not just one option, you are supposed to look at combination of statements. Such questions, please leave it to the last. Such questions, please leave it to the last, because it will take time for you to decide. It's not just elimination of options. You know all the options are not correct. You are trying to decide which is more correct, which is less correct in a particular order and put it. That is time consuming. Another point which is not mentioned here is in case you are weak in calculations, do not touch the calculation based questions. In case you are weak in calculations, do not take the calculation based questions. The reason is very, very important, and the reason is because in the last 2 years the calculation questions, take a guess, has become 0. In fact, 2020 XAT and this year 21 XAT, there were no calculation based questions. Almost all questions were based on your judgment and no maths involved. So in fact, there was a time where the calculation based questions, in fact when I do the decision making on analytical reasoning and calculation based questions in the next class, that is on 23rd evening, I will show some questions way back from 2010. The 2010 was like an RC passage, huge amount of information given to you, and then you're supposed to calculate after reading all of that. Forget about it. Then slowly they started cutting down the size of the passage, making smaller passages easy to read but calculation. Then in the last 1 or 2 years, they more or less took out the calculation base. Now I don't know if that's a trend. I don't know if it is going to continue. I don't want to say that don't practice calculation based questions, but the idea, I can definitely say based on the observation is, they might ask calculation based questions, and even if they ask, now the passages will be slightly smaller, doable. However, you don't have to worry about calculation based questions if you are weak in calculations, because those numbers have decreased. Those numbers have decreased. Also the kind of questions which are the second format, you know, many statements, so 5 statements given, arrange them. Such questions have also decreased in the last few years. In fact, 2017 or 18, there were 7 such questions. Arranging of the statements, pick a combination of 4 statements. Those kind of questions were 7. This 7 over the last few years has come down. In fact, 2021, there were only 3 questions like this. So this is about 18 or 19, I don't remember which year exactly. Today, 2021, if you look at this year's paper in Jan, you will see only 3 questions which are based on arrangement of the statements. So those type of questions have also decreased in nature. And of course, calculations have become more or less 0. Now, you might get again calculation based, so please don't say that I told you not to prepare, right? Okay, just taking a look at a few questions. Vasudev, I already answered your question. You don't need to qualify GK per se. There is no cutoff for GK. Sort of, obviously maximizing score in DM is okay, but again, before you try to answer all the questions, make sure that you get a grip on this topic. If you don't know whether you are good or bad at it, then it's always a luck factor, then you're gambling, right? So practice enough questions. Look at the last few years papers. That's what I said. There are enough questions. The questions in decision making go way back to 2008 and before also. So you have more than 10 years of papers available to you. You will have easily 200 questions there itself. With solutions, already there are enough. BYJU'S, our own institute, has given enough number of questions with solutions. You have other institutes or wherever else, open forums. In fact, from XAT itself, you can get few papers with key and solutions. Practice them, guys. Then only you'll understand are you good or bad at it. Okay? And whenever you make a mistake, this is the important part. Whenever you make a mistake, when you're solving these questions, read the reason why the correct answer is, let's say, option C, you marked option A. So understand why C is correct and what is the reason why they are saying A is wrong. Don't just say, okay, my answer is wrong, C is correct, and then you move away. Then that's not going to help you. An analysis for a question should be always to understand why is something correct and why did I think wrong. What is the difference between my way of thinking and the correct answer's logic for it. Okay. Well, I'm getting few more questions. Shubham, verbal score. Shubham, we'll have a different session for that. I don't want to deviate into verbal, my friend. Unfortunately, I'm going to stick to decision making today. Sometimes cannot sort out between two options. Ashish, that's okay. If you can, guys, and this is true for many of you. Quite a few of you will be able to eliminate three options and you're left with option A or option B or any two options you're left out with. You're not sure what to do. One thing I can tell you is, look, take option A, try to prove it wrong. Or take option B and try to prove it wrong. Don't try to see what is right. Try to see, okay, is there a reason why A is wrong? So your objective is to throw A out, let's say. If you can't throw A out, then try to do the same thing for B. One of the two you'll be able to eliminate because now you're thinking negatively for between A and B. So mostly what happens is you're trying to choose two options. You're not thinking of eliminating them. So you're looking at, okay, A is possible, B is also possible, that's fine. Now between A and B, if you have to throw one, which one will it be? Start thinking it in that way. You will probably be able to eliminate one option. Worst case scenario, you can't even do that. That's okay, 50% chance. That is when you need to gamble. When there are two options and only one of them is correct, you can gamble. You should go ahead and mark one. Okay? What is the source of practicing questions? Sharath is asking. Any books or site you suggest? Sharath, to be very honest, if you can look at the last 10 years, 15 years of XAT papers, my friend, that's more than enough. Trust me guys, that is more than enough. Okay? Right, moving forward. Now, let's look at few questions to practice. The first question is here. 60 seconds is the timer for you. Start reading this and I'll give you, so this is a scenario first. 60 seconds, start reading and I'll give you the question in the next slide. Remember whatever is happening because this slide will change. Alright, so 1 minute is up. I hope you guys have read it. It's a very simple story. There is a film star who is a brand ambassador for a company called MNC company, okay, multinational company, and he's gone to inaugurate certain thing, some event. It's basically for a solar power panels or something like that they have put up. And once he clicks the button to inaugurate it, something goes wrong and the huts there are set ablaze. He panics, he doesn't know what to do, and in frustration or whatever is the reason, they did not say the reason, but he hits the representative of MNC company in front of the camera. So this is the story given to you. Okay? And he collapses on the couch with his head in his hands. Right? So this story, simple enough. Let's look at how the question is. Look at this. So take a look at it. I will give you a few seconds and I'll read the question and try to figure out what should be the correct answer to this. Probably 60 seconds will be a good enough time again. Let's take a look at it. 60 seconds. See if you can get the correct answer. Right. So ideally for this type of a question, 1 minute is enough for you to decide. So if you notice, I said you can score 13 to 14 marks in less than 25 minutes. So why did I say that? Because typically it takes about 1 minute for you to read the scenario and 1 minute per question after that. So you can look at 5 minutes per set, approximately 5 minutes per set of 3 questions. If you spend 25 minutes, that's 5 sets you're talking about. That's 15 questions you're able to attempt. And these 15 questions, you can get probably 11 corrects or 10 corrects. So 10 or 11, that's what you can score. If you're really good in DM, your score can go up to 13, 14 marks also. Anyway, so coming to this, look at the question. The question says, soon after the MNC filed a case, in fact, many of you have given the correct answer, A, all of you are right. The correct answer is option C, but let's understand why is A the correct answer. They are asking which of the following is the most appropriate reason for the company to file a case against PK. So let's not worry about the most important reason. Let's look at what are the frivolous reasons. What are the reasons why it cannot, what are the options that can be easily eliminated? Look at it. The highly brand conscious MNC is using PK to divert public attention. Yet, if I want to divert public attention, why will I file a case on him? Because whenever I file a case, that is going to be in the media again, which means people will be talking about him, people will be talking about my company. Automatically, they will start talking, why am I there in that scenario in the first place? How is that diverting of attention? It cannot be. So, D can be ruled out straightforward. What else? MNC intention is to arrest its dropping sales post the incident through affirmative action. Yeah. Once again, your sales are dropping for what reason? Because you have been careless. Now, look at the people's mindset. If you are careless, they want to see you punished. What are you doing? You are going after the guy who's devastated. Look at the way in which he showed himself in front of the media. He held his head like this and sat after slapping the guy. So he was feeling miserable, although it is not his fault. Now you're going after that guy, the person who was feeling bad, though it is not his responsibility. And by doing that, you are not going to save your image. So C can also be ruled out. Now the MNC is forced to respond given the public slapping of its representative. Why is it forced to respond? For what purpose? What is your objective? There is no objective mentioned. It's just saying that, okay, I am forced to do this. Why? So as I said, anything which does not address the root cause, throw it out. Thrown out. Now you're left with A and E. Look at E. The MNC's mission statement includes employee first, customer second. So, well, you're a company which takes care of your employees, no doubt. Very good. You can be like that, but not at the expense of your customers. See, remember, employee first, customer second does not mean that I will let my customers die, right? What it means is, if I have to choose between the happiness of my employees or the happiness of my customers, I will choose my employees first. That's what the motto is. It does not say that, okay, let my employees do whatever they want, let them burn the entire set of villagers, and I still go with my customers. That's not what it means. So when your employee does wrong, you have to punish them. Somebody has been responsible for it. Somebody has been careless. That's why this entire thing happened. So you can't say that because I treat my employees well, I will always protect them. You can't do that, right? That's not correct also. So E is also gone. The only option left is option A. Okay. So this is how your decision making questions come into play. Let's take another question. Okay, A is the correct answer. Let's take another question. 60 seconds again. Read this. Okay. And see whether you are able to get the answer or not. Post the answers. Your 60 seconds time starts now. By the way, these are actual XAT questions. So if those of you who solved previous year's papers, you will see this. Okay, I have picked only the actual questions. Right, so Shubhangi has answered. Shubhangi Bisht. Very good, Shubhangi. That is the correct answer. Let's see what is happening here. So the question says, this slapping incident has garnered a lot of media attention, a lot of social media following, and the film actor, the PK person, also wants to enter politics. So he wants to use this, milk this mileage that he's getting. What is the best way for him to do it? Look at the options, guys. Some of the options you will actually see in your real life happening. For example, look at this. Slap the greedy. You will actually see politicians doing that today. Right? You say, in fact, you would have heard a lot of such instances also, right? So they say, if you find something going wrong, catch hold of the official and slap them. Well, in emotion, they can say whatever they like. And that is what is happening in the real life, but that is not the right way for you to answer in an exam. Slapping anybody and advising you to slap anybody is not legal. You can't hurt anybody without, the only means could be self-defense. That's it, nothing else. So this B is straight away ruled out. He should announce that he is entering politics with a slogan, one tight slap. Could be possible, nothing wrong with it. But remember, best. They are asking for the best possible scenario. So this could be possible. I'm not saying this is wrong. Some of you might do it. But let's see, is there anything better than this? He should meet the MNC representative he slapped and apologize. Okay, if I want to get into politics, I'm showcasing myself as a people's person who's acting on behalf of the people. I going and apologizing to the person who's responsible for the entire thing does not look good. So that is not the politically right move. Ruled out. What about E? In his upcoming movie, in the opening scene, he should slap and shame a treacherous corporate official who swindles poor people. Could be, but again, if that's a movie image that I'm creating, fine, but how much of this movie image will actually translate into his real life? Question mark. Secondly, there's nothing wrong, this also people have done. Let's also look at A, and between A, C and E, let us choose the best possible option. A, he says, he should visit the island and publicly promise to rebuild the island villages and publicize it in the social media. Guys, look at this. In this one stroke, what is he doing? He's showing that although he is not responsible for it, by being a person associated with the company responsible for it, I am taking, responsibility on my own. I am a people's person. Something went wrong, I did not do it, but it went wrong when I'm associated with this company. So I don't care what the company does, I will take care of you. So that is the message he's showing. Clearly, of all the three options, A is the best possible scenario. You are in one master stroke, you are saying that you are people's person, you are doing charity, you don't care about the big companies, right or wrong. First thing is people in your mind. I will fight with the company later, first let me take care of the people. That is what they want to see, the people want to see in a politician. Right? You are Shivram Raj. What is unethical? Which is unethical, Shivram Raj? Anyway, I hope you understood the logic. Right, Shivram Raj, yes, scheduling could be there, scheduling based questions can come, but that comes under. Shivram, you can post your query. I didn't understand what you were talking about. Yeah, slapping is unethical, obviously. More importantly, it's illegal. Okay. Right, so there's a small question, the time is almost up. For those of you who have seen the movie called The Dictator, you would be laughing at this, Vadiya. It's a very lovely comedy movie, but anyway. Amish is the marketing head of an e-commerce firm called FICT. Now recently the basic crux of the story is this particular firm signed up with a celebrity to endorse their firm, and this celebrity was signed as an ambassador to promote tourism. Remember, tourism in a small country called Vadia. Okay, so he's not going and supporting the dictator there. He is promoting tourism there. So you have to differentiate between the two. The ruler can be bad, but I am doing it for the, who are you doing tourism for? For the people of the country. So that's the first thing you need to understand here. Okay, so let's take a look at the question now. 60 seconds, once again, answer this quickly. Alright, so the answer is the time is almost up, and in my explanation of the passage I already gave away the answer. So Siddharth and backpack. Yes, correct answers. The answer is option E. So let's take a look at why is it E. First option says publicize on social media that FICT has nothing to do with celebrities association with other brands. Guys, what you need to understand, and this is something you will learn as marketing, as a part of marketing, is when you have a brand ambassador, it's a very good thing. It can work very positively. However, if something goes wrong with the brand ambassador, it is going to affect your brand also. This is one big risk that people take. I don't know how many of you remember, there was one health, product, which was endorsed by Yuvraj Singh, our star cricketer at one point. Unfortunately, it was a health product, remember. And at that point, within 1 year of that signing and him becoming the ambassador for that, he unfortunately contracted, he had cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer. Because of which, the product took a beating. Imagine, you are having this person who says, eat this product, you will be healthy, and the person himself, unfortunately, was diagnosed with cancer. That is one of the biggest risks of a real life personality who's endorsing a product. Something goes wrong with the person, it will affect your brand image badly. Anyway, so coming back to this, you cannot say, you can deny whatever you want. At the end of the day, he is associated. So the person is associated with Vadia as well as your company, and you're basically saying that, okay, I'm associated with the person who is getting kind of negative publicity. I can't say, I don't care what he does in his life. Then why are you taking him as an ambassador? What is the message you are trying to give to people by taking a person who people believe is doing bad work? You can't say, I don't care what he does in his life. No, that's not how marketing works. So you will be affected by his or her life choices. So you have to be very careful. So this cannot be the correct answer. Okay. Next, declare on social media that FICT chose a celebrity for his philanthropic work. Well, that's fine, but does it, could be possible, but does it really address a scenario that if he's so philanthropic, then why is he getting negative publicity from Vadia? Are you addressing the root cause? The root cause of the problem, remember, is that people associate him with the atrocities done by the dictator. You are not addressing that. They already know that he is a kind of a person. Now he's associated with the negative things that the dictator is doing. So is this B option really testing or affecting the root cause of the problem? Probably not, but still, question mark. C, withdraw all advertisements involving the celebrity from all the media platforms. Well, that is what actually the health product did. In the example that I mentioned of Mr. Yuvraj Singh, when he was diagnosed, he was taken out overnight, and a much bigger celebrity, Sallu Bhai or Mr. Salman Khan was brought in. Much bigger celebrity, and they pumped ads day in and day out, to an extent where people forgot that Yuvraj Singh was once there. It could be a possible way of doing. People do that. But taking out, but look at this, that's only half the story they are mentioning. It is done actually in the real life, it happened. But the other thing is, you are basically saying that no advertisement will be there till the issue moves on. And that is not the right way. Half of it is correct. You can do the other half, the first half, but the other half should be that, okay, you promote with a bigger personality, make sure that people forget what has happened in the past, move on and only look at the new celebrity. But if you don't do that, you're basically saying that the negative is already there, you stop advertising, and then you keep waiting for what? So this is definitely gone. Next, ignore social media backlash, assuming, yeah, this is straight away gone. You can't ignore social media today, especially the backlash when you see is gaining momentum. So the next thing is publicize on social media that the celebrity's endorsement of Vadia tourism will improve the livelihoods of Vadia's poor. This looks like the most possible answer because now you are addressing the root cause of the problem. The problem is this person PK is being associated, not PK, who is this, PK was in the last question, right? This person, the ambassador, is being associated with the atrocities done by the dictator, whereas by doing this fifth option, option E, you're talking about the person saying, you're saying that, look, he is not working for the dictator, he is doing it for the benefit of the people. Because when he endorses tourism, it is the people, the local people who will get benefited because of the tourism. So thereby, you are doing the good job of helping the people. This addresses positively, it shows him in the positive light. Okay, so this is basically your option E, which clearly now we can see the question mark is ruled out. So don't jump to the answer the first time you see it. Put a question mark, read all of them, you'll automatically see that, okay, this is better, that is better, or probably one of them is not good. Okay. Shivram Raj, thank you for the compliment, my friend. Yes, I do come often, probably once in a week I do, subscribe to the, click on the notification button, you'll get the notification of the session. Anyway, so this is how the questions are. I'll give you one last question, guys. So let's move on to one question. It's already high time. So I will skip one or two questions, but I want to give a different type of a question. Let me see if that is, yeah, this is the question. So last question, this is where there are multiple statements given. So I'll give you 1 minute, 60 seconds to read this and one question of the second format we're going to see now. Okay, 60 seconds for you to read this part. By the way, Shivram, my next session is on 23rd evening, same 9 o'clock. Be there. I'm going to discuss calculation-based decision-making questions. Okay, time is up. So, few things you would first notice. I don't know, in today's time and era, if somebody asks you money, first, if any of my friends ask me money, through email, first thing I'll do is pick my call and say, dude, what's wrong, what happened? Right? Or I'll send him a WhatsApp message. This guy didn't do that. That's the reason why this entire case is in front of us. Otherwise, this case wouldn't have been in front of us. But yeah, this is what has happened. So, this typically make sure that even a small learning in today's life of phishing and hacking, please make sure that when you're giving money to somebody, get verbal confirmation at least over the phone. Anyway, so he's basically, as you said, there's a case of a somebody who is using a different email ID, mailing this person and getting money from him. That's what has happened. Okay, so let's look at this statement now. Read this. Again, I'll give you 30 seconds only. Timer will not be there. You don't need a timer for this. I will move on to the next slide. No timer is required for this. Just read it. Okay, so I hope you understood the story. So now this is the question. I have given the 5 statements again. So these are the 5 statements. This is the question. So this is how the second format of the question comes in. It's not which of these options, it's which of these statements. You have to choose a combination of the statements. So take a look at it. I'll give you 30 seconds again. No timer required. This is the last question for the day. Okay, so which of the above mentioned reasons in a combination will best help Sridevi take up the issue with the top management? So first you need to understand the question. The question says, what are the combinations? And all the options are having 3 statements. So which 3 statements, when I combine, present a very forceful way of argument in favor of the person, Ashraf, right? So Sridevi wants to help him right now in this question. So which 3 if I combine will I be able to make a proper case to help this person? Now let's look at the statements. What are the statements? The statements first is he is accepting. I erred means I made a mistake. However, my financial rectitude is on record. So what is the meaning of rectitude? The meaning of this is correctness of something. So my financial way of my financial track record on this transaction, my correctness is on record. I'm not doing anything shady or seedy for that matter. Right? So he is accepting his mistake and he is also saying that whatever I did is in front of you. Second, I acted in the greater interest of the company. Obviously, right, your boss or somebody who is there in the company is asking you for help, and that too not for personal help. The mail clearly mentions that I need it for a client or something related to a client, so you did it for the company. Right? So that is also there. The spam mail reached my inbox due to the failure of the company's email filter. Now all big corporates will have an email filter where such mails will be spammed and thrown out, right? But this email somehow got through it also. So technically it should not have come to me. Even if it has come, I should have checked. But okay, you can always debate whose mistake is it, but it is a mistake to a certain extent from the company also. This is also there. Then a new tech employee who was robbed of 20,000 of company's cash was not punished. I can't say that he is not punished, so you should not punish this guy also. It's like saying that he stole and he didn't get caught, so I will also steal. First of all, that itself could be a wrong example. So when you're showing an example, first thing you have to make sure is the example that you're showing is correct. Just because it happened to somebody does not mean that I have to do it again. Right? So definitely this is not correct. And fifth, in the past, some of my acquaintances had been similarly duped. In fact, this is negative for you. If you know some of your friends have been duped, then you're an idiot to do the same thing without confirmation. Alright, I mean, it's obvious, right? You can't use this at all to further your benefit. So 4 and 5 are directly gone. So 1, 2 and 3, whichever option has 1, 2, 3, that should be the correct answer. Okay, option B. Alright, so many of you gave option C. 2, 3, 5. Remember, Sridevi takes up the issue with the top management. So you need to understand 2, 3, 5. 5 is definitely against you. Right? So again, I told you, decision making, you think in a certain way. You think in a certain way, but that is not the right way. That's what decision making is trying to understand. You might think that, okay, if it has happened to others, then I will also, it can happen to me also. That is actually wrong. If you see it happening to others, you should be more cautious. That's the way in which the thinking should be. That's mature way of thinking. Okay? Anyway guys, so this is how your questions come in your decision making. I hope this 1 hour session has been interesting to you. If you really like the session, once again, subscribe to the channel, click on the like button and make sure that the notification button is clicked by your side, because there are further sessions planned by other faculty members, even myself. In fact, my next session is on 23rd. We have a lot of such sessions on GDs, interviews, all of this planned. You will get these notifications at 9 o'clock in the evening. Thank you guys. See you in the next session on 23rd.
बायजूस एग्जाम प्रेप लाया है आपके लिए दी अल्टीमेट विंटर कार्निवल, जहां 21 से 31 दिसंबर तक आप जीत सकते हैं एक्साइटिंग प्राइजेस पाने का मौका ऑन द परचेज ऑफ आवर ऑनलाइन क्लासरूम प्रोग्राम, जैसे कि स्मार्टफोन और स्मार्ट वॉच। ये ही नहीं, 25 दिसंबर और 31 दिसंबर को आप जीत सकते हैं स्मार्ट टीवी और स्कूटी जैसे बम्पर प्राइजेस। तो देर किस बात की, आज ही ऑनलाइन क्लासरूम प्रोग्राम के साथ अपने अपकमिंग एग्जाम की प्रिपरेशन स्टार्ट करें। With live interactive classes and mock tests designed by our expert faculty, get best study material along with instant doubt resolution और साथ ही पाएं बेहतरीन गिफ्ट्स पाने का मौका। Terms and conditions apply.